every Tuesday at this time by one of our favorites. If you've watched the NFL, if you watched ESPN back in the day, if you watch the NFL on Fox now, if you happen to listen to 104.3 The Fan in Denver, you know all about Mark Schlereth, and Mark will join us each and every Tuesday on Cattles and Rami here at Sactown Sports. Mark, thanks, first of all, for joining us today and this football season. Let me ask you about the Jimmy G thing that's happening here locally. What did you make of the Jimmy G news last week when you first saw it?
Well, there's a couple of things I thought. One, Jimmy G is just one of the quality dudes in the National Football League. His teammates love him. He's a guy that you'd love to, you just love to play with. So, I was excited for him to have that kind of opportunity. I think there's two things that really, my grandson is very excited about Jimmy G. So there's two things I think about with that contract. One, I understand that Jimmy G has the opportunity or the right to refuse any trade, but it does make him more of a tradable commodity now. If somebody wants to go after Jimmy G after the first week of the season. So, he would have to sign off on it. Doesn't mean they can't trade him or that he wouldn't accept a trade, but he has the right to refuse any trade. So it does make him more of a tradable commodity as opposed to having to spend $24 million on a guy. I think the salary is about $8 million with incentives. It makes it a manageable contract. And then the second thing I thought was, well, how much do they really trust Trey Lance? I know that he's got a ton of talent. I know that he's unbelievably athletic. I know why they drafted him, because they want to run. They want to couple that, wide zone, tight zone, that offense that Kyle Shanahan, got from Mike Shanahan, my former head coach, and that he's expanded and run it with all the zone read stuff with the quarterback, on the edge, threatening the edge of the defense and all the play action stuff that comes off of that. And so that's really when, why he became such an intriguing prospect coming out of college. But this gives you an insurance policy. If he can't operate from the pocket, if he still has, more developing to go, and you feel like, hey man, we're in a crunch situation here where we're better off with Jimmy G running the show, you can make that move and you can make him a package guy. So I just think it's the best of both worlds situation for Jimmy G for the 49ers, because I don't think there's any question when you look at their roster's got to be in the top third of the National Football League, just to overall player to player.
How long do you think that leash is for Trey Lance in that scenario that you're talking about if he can't execute and turning to Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, I think he's going to get an opportunity for, 6-7 games or so before they would make that, move. I think that he's probably going to get at least, that many games, but, it could be shorter. If you come out there and you just can't operate from the pocket, and let's face it, that's the NFL in a nutshell, right? It's like, I always say this about quarterbacks, right? What is your default mechanism? Because about 70% of the time you want to be on schedule. That's just what you like. You want to go, hey, it's 1st and 10, bam, we run a play. Now it's 2nd down and 5 minus, right? 2nd down and 5, 2nd down and 4. Okay,
right.
Bam, we run another play. Now we're in 3rd down and 1, and our playbook is open to us, right? We can convert, whatever the case may be, yada yada. We keep on going. So you want to be on schedule as an offense, and and when your default mechanism, when things break down, if your default mechanism isn't from the neck up, but it's from the neck down, meaning, hey man, I'm going to rely on athleticism to get me out of trouble, that's a recipe for disaster in my mind. You'll make some big plays and you'll do some spectacular things, but the problem with that is when that is your default mechanism, you're going to make, over the course of a season, you'll make more disastrous plays than you will make big plays. And that's just my own personal experience watching guys who default to, hey, I've always been the best athlete on the field, let me go be the best athlete. That's not how you consistently win games in the National Football League. You can win them that way in college, but you can't win them that way in the NFL.
Mark Schlereth is with us here, NFL on Fox 104.3 The Fan in Denver. Cattles and Rami, Sactown Sports on a Tuesday. Let's go to your neck of the woods, Mark. Anything less than a Super Bowl, a bust year for the Broncos after adding Russell Wilson?
No, I think I think obviously you're looking for the playoffs. I think Super Bowl is, I mean, I just know how hard they are to win. So I think Super Bowl is a pretty lofty, a lofty goal, no question about it. And of course, I'd like to think that the Broncos, that was the tradition. When I came from Washington to the Denver Broncos, it was Super Bowl or bust. But I think there's a lot going on. A lot of new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new offensive coaches, new defensive coordinator, new special teams coordinator. I mean, everything is new quarterback. But you have one, right? Russell Wilson gives you a chance to win games. And that's the bottom line. He gives you a chance to cover warts and win games. And that's what a franchise quarterback does. Backup quarterbacks, you know what they give you? Like, everything has to be perfect when you have a backup quarterback. Like, hey, man, we got to be great on specialties. We got to get a couple of big returns. We got to shut them down inside the 20, 3 or 4 times. We've got to, hey, defensively, we got to create and win the turnover battle. We got to be +3 in the turnover battle. Offensively, we got to run the style out of the ball and set up a couple play actions. Like, that's how you operate when you're playing a backup quarterback. A franchise quarterback erases warts. He just covers mistakes, and that's what you have in Russell Wilson. I think if they're not fighting, at 10-7, or if they're not fighting for a playoff berth, that would be a disappointment. But so much newness, I don't think it has to be Super Bowl or bust in year one.
Since we're talking about the AFC West, I see a lot of people saying that losing Tyreek Hill might be a good thing for Patrick Mahomes to spread the football around. I am of the belief that more good players around a quarterback is a good thing. That being said, how good a job do you think the Chiefs did of replacing what they lost in Tyreek Hill, bringing in guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
Yeah, listen, hey, Tyreek Hill is the most dynamic player in football. I mean, that's probably a true statement. I'm buddies with a bunch of defensive coordinators, a bunch of coaches in the league, and you spend enough time like I have around this game, you become friends with guys. And so I'm talking to a buddy of mine, Wink Martindale, who is now the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, and he was with the Baltimore Ravens at the time. And he goes, Stink, I'm going to tell you something right now. He goes, I have never in pads seen Tyreek Hill's equal when it comes to separation and speed. He goes, it is like he's a different animal, and like it's unbelievable. And I think a lot of times, I use this with Randy Moss all the time. I talk to cornerbacks who played against Randy Moss, and they'd all say he was such a fluid athlete that you'd convince yourself during film study during the week that I can run with Randy Moss. I'm like, come on, look at like, he's not even trying. And then they said he'd run the first go, and he'd be within a step. He'd be 3 steps beyond you, and you're like, holy crap! I can't run with Randy Moss. But Tyreek, on film, you're like, ain't nobody can run with Tyreek Hill, right? So then it becomes leverage. You better understand where your help is, where your leverage is. You better be great at funneling a guy to that leverage, to that help. But here's where I think it benefits. Here's where I think it benefits the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, Andy Reid has historically never wanted to run the ball. Like, that's not his, modus operandi, right?
Yep.
And I look at them losing the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm thinking to myself, that's football hubris. Like, they were giving you 7 yards a carry. You averaged 7.5 yards a carry or something like that. You gave it to your running back 9 times. So they basically said, we are going to play coverage. We are going to have our super fast linebackers, sitting with their heels at 5.5, 6 yards. And we're going to be taking away those underneath those crossing routes, the deep in cutting routes. That we're taking all that stuff away. We're begging you to run it down our throats. And Andy Reid was like, I don't want to win that way. I've got too many great athletes, right? And ultimately, you get your ass kicked. And so to me, like, if that's a signal to go, hey, listen, man, I'm going to go back to being a little bit more balanced because I need to, and I need to operate with a few more guys. I think that overall is a good thing. And I will say this, there have been people out there that said, hey, people have got a book on Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes, is not as feared as he once was. Hey, listen, man, you may not fear me, but I'm still going to whip your ass, right? Patrick Mahomes is that good. So that talk is just ridiculous talk.
Got about a minute left here, Mark. Just one more question for you. Obviously, talking about the AFC West. Some fans of the Raiders still in this area here in Sacramento. When you look at this division, you look at that team, how do you feel about the Raiders?
Listen, man, this is like eating a turd sandwich for me because I hate the Raiders with a white hot intensity of 1,000 suns, but I think the Raiders are really good. And then it goes back to my playing days, man. There were real rivalries, right? You really actually hated each other. It was like one of those things when, in the off season, when you'd see somebody from a different team and you're all at Disney World, you're with your family and they're with their family, you'd be like, hey, you stay on your side of the street, I'll stay on my side of the street, right? Never the two shall meet.
Right.
It's not that way. It doesn't operate that way anymore in the league. But I think Derek Carr is vastly underrated. Devontae Adams not only is uber talented, but he is one of the smartest receivers in the National Football League. So he's got size, speed, athleticism, and intelligence. And all you have to do is look around the AFC West, what teams did. I mean, the Broncos went out and got Randy Gregory. They went out, and then the Raiders went out and to pair with Max Crosby, they went out and got
Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones. Thank you. The Chargers went out and got Khalil Mack. Right. I mean, if that doesn't say, hey, we are concerned about Patrick Mahomes, then nothing does. So. And you got to be concerned about all the quarterbacks in that division because obviously Herbert is great. I think Derek Carr just basically, like, for a really good quarterback, he just gets dumped on because the rest of the division is so good. But I think he is right there. You're splitting hairs when you're talking the difference between Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert. I think they're all really good.
Great stuff, Mark. Look forward to doing this all year long. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks, Mark. There goes Mark Schlereth. Again, he'll join us each and every week on the show on Tuesdays at about 5:15. We'll wrap things up coming up next.
The start of the NFL season is upon us, and Sactown Sports 1140 has